verse 58, and he did not many mighty works there because of their unbelief. Now, the way Matthew 13:58 is typically cited goes something like this. Matthew chapter 13, verse 58 typically is quoted as, and Jesus could not do many mighty works because of their unbelief. So they take this to say, look, if you don't have faith, Jesus can't do miracles. So therefore you have to have faith. Now, there's a couple of things before we even look into this that we need to establish. The lack of faith these individuals have these were not believers who are praying to God for a healing, but supposedly their faith is not enough, therefore God will not do this. No, these are people who outright reject him. They're like, this is just the carpenter's son. This is someone who's rejecting Jesus' claim of deity, Jesus' claim of being the Messiah, being the Christ, being the Son of the living God. They are rejecting that. They are offended by him. They're ignorant of that. This is not an example of believers who are crying out to God saying, Lord, please heal my child. Lord, please heal me of cancer. And then when it doesn't happen, everybody goes, well, if they would have had more faith. That is outside the parameters of this passage. This passage would apply to God not doing something for an unbeliever. This would have nothing to say about believers. That is the parameter set up by the text. These people reject him. These people are like, who is this guy? We know his family. We know his mom. He was a carpenter's son. Now he's in here teaching with all this authority. What is going on? And of course the King James says that they were offended. Now, we could look up the Greek word there and do a little word study there to get the basic idea. But I think that that's a fair rendering of the text. I think it's a fair reading of the text. So to take this and apply this to, hey, you're a Christian? Oh, wait, you're praying for your daughter and she's not getting any better? You lack faith. Why? Jesus can't do miracles if you don't have enough faith. Matthew 13:58. Well, you need to back up and reread that. There's a clear context there. All right. I think that is first. Second, I'm going to pull up here. You're going to hear some clicking on my iPad. I'm going to pull up multiple translations of Matthew 13:58. Matthew 13:58. Here's an important question. Is Matthew 13:58 saying he did not, or is it saying he could not? Is it saying he did not, or is it saying he could not? There's a big difference between Jesus just not doing it, right? Versus saying he cannot, like it's an absolute. Matthew 13:58. I'm going to read it from a number of translations. The New International Version. And he did not do many miracles there because of their lack of faith. Now, number one, it says he did not do many. That doesn't mean he didn't do any. And number two, it says he did not. It does not say that he could not. All right, so let's set this up, all right? Now, again, I'm having my own devotional time, so I don't have these written down as an outline. So whenever I give you an outline, I may mess up the numbers or not repeat them the same way if I continue to repeat them moving on. So you may want to write these down immediately. So let's go through these. Okay, we'll create a little outline here of thoughts about this passage. Number one. Clearly, the text is speaking about something that occurred with a group of people who reject Jesus, reject who he is, are ignorant of who he is, who do not believe that he's the eternal Son of God, the Messiah. They reject that. They just think he's the carpenter's son. They just see him as a normal guy. All right? So you can't apply this then to believers. Number two. The text demonstrates that he did at least some miracles here because the text says, and he did not do many miracles. It does not say he did none. So even here where there was people with a lack of faith, he still did miracles. All right. So number one, this is applying to clearly lost people. Number two, the text clearly implies he did some miracles. And number three, it does not say that he could not. It says that he did not. Could could not means he was unable to do so. And that the only way he can is if my faith is the engine that drives Jesus' miracle performing power. He can't get that power going until I exercise my faith. That's not what the text says. So again, number one, the context here is speaking of unbelievers. Number two, he did some miracles, implying that he can. And number three, the text does not even say that he could not. It says that he did not. So that's reading Matthew 13:58 from the New International Version. And he did not do many miracles there because of their lack of faith. New Living Translation even drives it home even more. And so he did only a few miracles there because of their unbelief. ESV, and he did not do many mighty works there because of their unbelief. The Berean Study Bible, and he did not do many miracles there because of their unbelief. The Berean Literal Bible, and he did not do many mighty works there because of their unbelief. New American Standard, he did not do many miracles there because of their unbelief. The King James, and he did not do many mighty works there because of their unbelief. All the texts agree. This is one of the situations where you have universal agreement in all the translations. You can't get into some textual argument. It's clear. He did some, obviously proving that he could. The text says he did not, doesn't say that he could not. And the context, he's speaking to unbelievers. So clearly, this demonstrates a massive mishandling of the text by many Christians, and especially many within the charismatic world. Let me give you an example. All right, setting the iPad back down. I'm going to lean over here and grab my Kindle. All right, on my Kindle, I have a devotional. That is a devotional on Matthew 13:58. I'm going to read exactly what they say. Pay close attention to how they handle this. They have the text quoted. He did not work many miracles. He did not work many okay, let me read this again. He did not work many mighty deeds there because of their lack of faith. Matthew 13:58. All right, let me continue. Imagine yourself rafting down a river, enjoying the cool summer breeze and the peaceful scenery. Then you run into a huge log. As you try to maneuver around it, your raft flips over and you fall into the water, getting your feet caught between some rocks. You panic and start thrashing about, and your friends jump in after you, but he has a hard time releasing you because you're struggling too much. You have a hard time believing he can really help you. Let go, he shouts over the water. I've got you. As you finally surrender, he gets you free and is able to bring you to the shore safe and sound. All right? Now you please note that. All right? He could not help this person until the person surrendered, until the person trusted him. So therefore, it's already establishing in this analogy, this person could not be rescued until they believed, until they trusted. Now listen carefully what they go on in the next paragraph. Today's gospel, Matthew 13, the passage we read, today's gospel tells us that Jesus wasn't able to perform many miracles in his hometown because of the people's weak faith. Now, does it say he wasn't able, or did it just simply say he did not? Now, if you want to pull in some other passage, we could get into that discussion, all right? Because I'm already started thinking, what cross-references could we pull up here? And maybe there's some cross-references, but I'm saying from Matthew 13, the text clearly is not saying that he wasn't able because he performed some, but it says that he did not. Today's gospel tells us that Jesus wasn't able to perform many miracles in his hometown because of the people's weak faith. Now, again, it's not, they didn't have a weak faith. I see, they're just adding all kinds of words to the text. The text demonstrates what kind of faith they had. They didn't have any faith, all right? In fact, how does the text say it again? Let me read it again. Matthew 13:58. It says, because of their unbelief or lack of faith. I don't think any of the translations said weak faith. They're classifying that the people had a weak faith. That they had faith, it was weak. Their faith was, this guy is the carpenter's son. So even that seems to be misleading of the text. Mind you, the people weren't thrashing around emotionally, but they still couldn't bring themselves to surrender to Jesus. They stayed stuck in their limited logical thinking, even though he was right in front of them, offering them a way out and a way up. And our journey with the Lord, we too need to learn to surrender to Jesus. This is an important element in the call to faith. To trust that Jesus knows what he's doing and to believe that he is strong enough to save you. Yea, faith has to do with knowing the doctrines of the church. Yes, it has to do with trying our best to follow the commandments and to care for the poor and needy. And yes, it has to do with sharing our beliefs and standing up for what is right. But at the heart of faith is a call to surrender. All right? And, we could go on and read everything they have to say, but the whole point is they're I could continue reading everything they say, but to me, that devotional demonstrates a complete misunderstanding and a mishandling of the text. And I think that's the common thing. This is what I will say. God has the ability to do any miraculous work whenever he wants, however he wants. Now, the normative way life works for anyone who's willing to be honest and they're not faking, miracles on television like many of the so-called faith healers have been caught doing, and many so-called charismatic ministries have been exposed as fraudulence and frauds and claiming people have been healed of all of these diseases. And then the news goes back and follows up and finds out all the people who claim to be healed are dead of this very disease they claim to be healed from. I mean, I've witnessed this enough and over and over and over. I witnessed people when I worked in the medical world for countless years of my adult life. People who go to charismatic churches claiming God, healing is guaranteed, yet they would be calling us and coming to see us for medical attention and medical help. And I sometimes wanted to say, your church teaches that healing is guaranteed through what Christ did on the cross. Why are you coming to us? You're taking up appointment time for people who obviously don't have access to such miraculous power. You claim that it's a guarantee, then you should be walking the hallways healing everyone. Right? The problem is that their go-to get out of jail free card, if I can use that kind of terminology, is if someone isn't healed, they're not healed because they didn't have enough faith. And Matthew 13:58 is one of the top kind of texts that are often cited. And I think it's a complete misunderstanding. I am going to look at something. I'm going to set the iPad back down. I believe I know where there's a cross-reference. I believe I know. And let me see if I can find it. You got to give me a second. Remember, this is my live devotional time. All right, Mark chapter 6 definitely puts it in a much more definitive way, all right? Let's go back here. I think we're going to get the same context, though. So again, I still don't think we can apply this to believers. Mark chapter 6, let's go to verse 1. And he went out from thence and came into his own country, and his disciples follow him. And when the Sabbath day was come, he began to teach. And this is Mark chapter 6, I'm in verse 2. And when the Sabbath day was come, he began to teach in the synagogue, and many hearing him were astonished, saying, From whence hath this man these things? And what wisdom is this which giveth unto him, that even such mighty works are wrought by his hands? Now, they obviously saw some miracles. We get the same indication in Matthew. Is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary, the brother of James and Joseph, and of Judah and Simon? And are not his sisters here with us? And they were offended at him. But Jesus said unto them, A prophet is not without honor, but in his own country, and among his own kin, and in his own house. Now, Mark 6 is much more adamant here. And he could there do no mighty work, save that he laid his hands upon a few sick folk and healed them. And he marveled because of their unbelief, and he went around about the villages teaching. All right, this one is a little bit more dogmatic. And I'm glad I remembered it, because some charismatic who would listen to this would go, well, go to Mark. Okay, I'm glad I thought about it. And I'm glad I remembered where it was. Um,